I got problems with the devaluing of what I think is a very, very special thing, and that is the Army-Navy game. It's not going to be considered in college football playoff selection. Now, 99 times out of 100, that's not going to be a factor. But it could be a factor one year. And in that year, it would be very embarrassing for the Army-Navy game to be some sort of factor in a 12 or 16 game playoff, and that game not be considered as a factor in the college football playoff selection. What can you tell us about that? Basically, it comes down to timing and scheduling, right?
Yes, the 12-team college football playoff has to start at the latest, the third week of December. And conference championship games are the first weekend of December. The Army-Navy game the Army-Navy game basically refused to move their date on that second weekend of December because they wanted to be the only game in town.
Sure.
And the college football playoff has made it clear that they want the selection process still done after conference championship weekend. So the college football playoff,
particularly like that they're on their own, but you can at least understand their stance that they're not going to give it up, right?
Yeah, I get why they want to keep it on that day. I understand the business side of it, and for them it's not stupid because they're probably making a calculation. We get way more value out of this than a potential college football playoff appearance that we're not going to get 99 out of 100 times anyway.
Right. So it's 1 in 100. You make this incredible run, and it would be even more special than like a Cincinnati making a run or a TCU because it would be one of the armed services. But again, we're talking about 1 in 100 at best.
I agree. Now, you want a funny story about this, Dave, that makes this come full circle? You ready for this?
This is where Caleb gets smart on me, and it always scares me. Caleb's insights are brought to you by our good friend at Joe Newbert Collision Center.
45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
What do you got? I'm scared. Are we going crazy, Caleb, or cool, concise, insightful, Caleb? All right, here we go.
History lesson. It was 1950. The year was 1950. And Tennessee who had one loss, beat number 3 ranked Kentucky at the end of the year. Army finished number 2. The final polls came out before Army played Navy. Army lost to Navy after the final polls came out. Meanwhile, Kentucky then beat Oklahoma and Tennessee beat Texas in their bowl games. So Tennessee has retroactively claimed 1950 as a national championship season, even though they did not finish number 1 in either of the major polls.
You have to do 2 things for me because Kyle's like, are you going to break out the voice? That would be pretty funny. All right. So you have to do 2 things for me since you love Caleb and we all love Caleb. And it's obvious by your numbers and your analytics when I was gone, you like Caleb more than me, and that's fine. Story time with Caleb. You have to and you have to tell me how golden was that and how he knew that. I think you said it was 1638 that Kentucky won.
No, the year was 1950.
Oh, just 1950. Okay. Thank you. If you absolutely love Caleb, hit the like button, comment about how much you love Caleb. Because if you get that anywhere else, I will hook you up with that John Henderson autographed helmet that we're going to give away as part of our Hooker's Corner club that you can be a part of. Again, that is in the it is right there. It is very easy to find. You can join at any point. Any other history lessons for us today, Caleb, before people join our Patreon club?
Well, yeah. So this is 1950 is a year where I'll ask you, Dave. So 1967 is a joke. Tennessee's a joke for claiming the 1967 national title. That is laughably stupid.
I guess. Okay.
But 1950, do you think they have a legitimate claim? Because the polls did come out before the postseason that year and the Army-Navy game. However, had the polls come out after the postseason, Tennessee would have been the clear-cut number 1 team at the end of 1950. So do you think that's fair for them to claim a national title that year because of that?
No, I think it should always be after the polls.
Well, no, but you're missing my point. In 1950, Tennessee. Okay, so then you're saying they do have a right to claim 1950 as a national title, because had the polls come out after 1950, Tennessee would have been number one consensus.
Yes, I think you should go back and do it. I really believe this. Just like you should do sacks in the NFL. NFL Films has an intern that would go back and watch every single game and count sacks. Deacon Jones has more sacks than Reggie White or Michael Strahan. I'm sorry. It's a fact. Go back and count them. So I would like for somebody to go back and do that with post bowl game rankings.
Okay, so here's why this is so interesting. If you do that, Tennessee gets the 1950 national title, but they have to give up the 1951 national title because they lost the Sugar Bowl that year. And so,
well, that would mess up an awful lot of copy that talked about 1998, first time in 47 years, wouldn't it?
It's so
I mean, there would be a book that would have to be rewritten, wouldn't there?
There would. This is why you can't do this retroactively, Dave. And by the way, just so people know, I'm going to do a shameless plug. I got a video out on the history of college football and how they crowned the national champions over the years. It's a two-parter. But they did that. The first 33 national titles from like 1869 to 1901 was done by a series of rankings by a Chicago newspaper in the 30s to retroactively do it. But here's why you can't do it with the bowls of what you're talking about, Dave. A lot of coaches, General Neyland himself, because the bowl games didn't count, they didn't place any emphasis on the bowl game.
Right.
So you would go retroactively declare national champions, but they would say, General Neyland's ghost would say, well, if I had known you guys were going to factor this for the national championship, I would have played harder for it. And so you can't really count it against me.
Kyle says it's crazy to think that they just used to claim national championships. Yeah, it'd be like being in high school. Yeah, I'd like to claim you as my girlfriend. Yep, I've got 5 of the most gorgeous girls in high school that I'm claiming as my girlfriend. You can go to tristarhatsco.com, tristarhatsco.com. You see it right up there. The new spring styles are out, and you can use Hooked. That's Hooked to get 10% off on any tristarhatsco.com apparel. And be sure you use tristarhatsco.com. There are a lot of copycats out there, not with tristarhatsco.com. So certainly take care of them. And then, yeah, I accidentally made you go away. There, you're back. All right. So tristarhatsco.com. Now, do you want to put your link up there for your video that goes back in the history? I think that we could pull that out. But you've got it's always scares me. Caleb says behind the wall he's got a hot take. What's his hot take?
Well, I will put the link in a second, but I will say this. College football playoff should not be making concessions to Army Navy. They should be starting the week of the Army Navy game. I'm sorry. You guys can hate me. You can say Caleb hates the military or some stupid stuff like that.
Well, it's not that you hate the military for doing the right thing by them. It's that you hate the NCAA for not having the power to exercise that. And they don't. And they haven't in a long, long time. And by the way, Deacon Jones, in case you don't know it, will tell you that he led the NFL in sacks. If you say, was it close to Reggie White? Because it was Reggie White that held it at the time, not Michael Strahan. He'll say, it wasn't even close. And you will be a little bit scared.